Hello everyone. Good evening. Or I don't know what time is it when you're watching this first presentation I'm actually doing for uh, Denmark, Brazil, and Biasa. Actually, I'm gonna make a few introductions about myself and about what DenmarkBrazil.com is and what Biasa is. Uh, I've actually just turn the webcam on, so you can see who's actually talking to you. But I will be turning it off, so we can proceed with this presentation. And well, this presentation I have done recently on a event. Let me just see if I can turn this webcam off. I don't think so. Anyways, you will see me from now on. This presentation I have done recently in partnership with a company called DSV, and my name is Carlos, and I have a company called Biasa, and I've been living in Denmark for a little more than a year, and DSV. I'm a Brazilian entrepreneur. I'll be telling you my story, but it's how I developed business between Denmark and Latin America. But our focus here today will be Brazil. So first I will do a few introductions and then I will walk you through 5 effective tactics that I use when I start a venture in Brazil, and then we'll go through some conclusions. All right. So my name is Carlos Monteiro. I'm 29 years old. I live in Denmark. Actually, the name of the city is Odense. They say it's the third largest city of Denmark. When I first got here, I thought it was still a very small city. I come from São Paulo, which is a city with nearly 20 million people living there. It's a massive capital, and here in Odense we have 300,000 people. So at first was quite a shock for me, and but now I love it. And the reason why I moved to Denmark is my wife. I'm married. I have a Danish wife, and together we have a daughter. Her name is Ines. She's almost 2 years, and we are in the process. We are about to be parents for the second time, and actually could happen at any moment. So um, the reason why I came to Denmark is, as I said, my wife. My relationship with Denmark started back 4.5 years ago, where I worked for the Danish consulate in Brazil for nearly 2 years. And my role there, I was a student, and I used to help Danish companies from several sizes to tap into the Brazilian market. And every 6 months we used to get new interns in one of the groups. We received Katrina and another intern, and yeah, we got to know each other, and that's where everything started. So just so you know, also I'm the founder of a company called Biasa, and Biasa started from a website that I created before moving to Denmark. The name of the website is denmarkbrazil.com. You know, before moving to Denmark, I created this website because I knew already it was going to be quite challenging to find a job as an immigrant, especially because I don't speak the language, which is Danish. Um, so I did, and when I worked at the Danish consulate, I saw many Brazilians moving to Denmark as well. Because at the consulate we had like two divisions, which is one division that used to take care of business, which is the trade counselor, and they still do it. They're very competent at it. And the other division was just the consulate doing this international affairs. And I used to see a lot of Brazilians moving to Denmark, and it was very common to hear that they didn't find a job and so on. So before moving to Denmark, what I did was to create this blog called denmarkbrazil.com. And I started working really hard on this blog, as I wanted to position myself as a different immigrant who knew something about Brazil. So basically, what I did was to interview most of my network, a lot of CEOs and directors of companies in Brazil, foreign companies, multinationals, foreign CEOs, national CEOs from several sectors, which I thought, by doing these interviews, I could actually bring some uh, content quality, content content of quality for my audience in Denmark, and thereby I would be able to position myself as as a different Brazilian who knew something about Brazil and who could eventually get a job. But things turned out to be very to become very different from what I was expecting. And one day I got this call from this Danish business asking if I was a business developer or what because of my website and that they'd been following me on LinkedIn. And after that, so denmarkbrazil.com enabled me to create Biasa. And Biasa today has accomplished. Um, it hasn't developed only one business, but three, and I'm in the process of developing my fourth business. And you know, I'm here today because DSV also thought that this story was quite interesting. Um, so I'm really thankful for the opportunity it's being given here. And Biasa is a business development company that is about bringing forth results, not only reports. And when I say that is because I've worked not only at the Danish consulate but at other organizations, and I've concluded that the only reason why a Danish or whatever nationality your company is from wants to go abroad is because you have to sell. So, of course, you need a few reports. You need to understand the local culture, the market, and whatever it is. But what the bottom line is, you need to sell. You need to expand the, the market. You need to gain market share, and the only reason why you want to do it is because you want to sell. You want to either establish your company abroad, or you want to find a partner, but you want results, and this is what Piazza is about. And I'm here to tell you today that in less than a year I've been able to establish three deals in Brazil to develop three companies, two breweries, two Danish breweries, and one is in the lighting business. So in my opinion, the moment to go to Latin America and the moment to go to Brazil is now. Latin America is a market that, with nearly 600 million people, um, and just Brazil we have a little more than 200 million people. So you can, it's a market that you can, can definitely not disregard. I mean, from your scope. In regardless of the sector you are, and I mean, you I'm not going to be talking so much about the difficulties you will find in doing business in Brazil, but it's definitely a country with a lot of opportunities where in many sectors you will find very little or no competition. And the companies that are there sometimes they're not as competent as I would say Nordic businesses. So there are still a lot of opportunities if you want to prepare for for getting started in Brazil today and having success uh, within 5 years from now, 3 years from now. And not necessarily you have to establish your business in Brazil. You can find a partner and and grow in Brazil by doing so. So this is why I believe the moment to go to Latin America is now. And today I'll be telling you the story of Vita Living, which is one of the businesses I have developed in Brazil. And Vita Living is a company that was founded in 2008 by Jakob Nannestad and Søren Haum Christensen. Um, they are now exporting for more than 40 countries, and we've just started with Brazil. So the interesting thing about Vita Living was that when they called Biasa, when they asked me to start developing the business for them in Brazil, they never wanted a lot of market research. They never wanted a lot of information about the market because as they've been exporting already for more than 40 countries, they were pretty sure. Um, I would say that is a risk as well, uh, you know, uh, but that they were pretty sure that the product somehow would be accepted um, by by a good share of the population. So what they asked me was actually to find a to focus all my efforts in finding a local partner for them. And today, what Biasa is doing is Biasa is managing this partnership closely, so we can ensure that this partner is following all what has been agreed, you know, and we are also trying to reach other verticals in the Brazilian market for Vita Living, and not only the end consumers, but eventually going to cannot really talk about the strategy here, but going to other verticals. So who knows, malls and other things. Now I'm gonna start walking you through the 5 effective tactics when you start your endeavor, so to say, to the Brazilian market. And the first step is in relation to how to use all available tools. A few facts you should know before you start in the Brazilian market is that only 5% of the Brazilian population is fluent in English. This data I have found, actually, I didn't put the source here, but from a study done by EF, which is a really massive international exchange student company. And the countries with the highest English proficiency are here in the Nordics, like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland are countries where people are really proficient in the English language. But in Brazil, only 5% of the Brazilian population is fluent in English. Thereby, all the relevant data is written in Brazilian Portuguese. So this is very important for you to know, because when you when you start doing business in Brazil, it all starts at the research phase. In the research phase, I'm using here Google as an example, but it could be Bing, it could be Yahoo. I don't know what search engine is your preferred. So I'm not here. I don't intend here to do any advertisement for Google, but this is just for for the sake of the example. And when I started doing the research for Vita Living in Brazil, using Google, about decorative lighting in Brazil, as you can see here, I have decorative lighting written on the search bar, and I was using Google DK. So because I knew the sector and I know some people working within this sector in Brazil, I felt somehow that the results were quite weird. I mean, in the sponsored links here, we can see some really large corporations, but even so, I mean, the results were weird. If you scroll down, I was feeling that the results were pretty weird. And that's when I came across an article, and I don't intend to be very technical here, but the article, I came across explained me that I could use Google Brazil, so google.com.br, to perform my searches about the lighting market, the decorative lighting market in Brazil, and it made a huge difference in the results I started having. So I actually had an increase of roughly 67% in the results. Um, and it's not only about the amount of the results that you get, but the actual results and the companies that you start seeing on the very top of 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 Google. the first ranking as the first companies, but actually the results as well. And the studies you can see were way more in accordance to the Brazilian reality and to what I knew about the Brazilian market. So this is the first tip I would like to give you in relation to how do you start in the Brazilian market. A few things that I think this first tip is very important, which is that if you want to do business in Brazil, using the local language is paramount. Brazilian Portuguese is very important to perform your searches. Use Google Brazil or Bing Brazil or Yahoo Brazil. It doesn't matter. Just remember to use the local search engine. But once you judge you've had enough data in Brazilian Portuguese, then you should swap it to English, switch it to English. Try to find something in English, of course, using google.com.br, because you might find a lot of interesting results as well in the English languages. Some companies they don't publish the results. It's not that they don't publish, but they might publish other results in English that could be complementary to your to what you've found in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. So just as a first step, you know, and when I also say about using all available tools, I mean, in order to start in Brazil, you got to make sure that you either have the resources within your company, and in order to do the resources, usually have to be a large company, like to have a Brazilian speaking fellow working for you. But if you don't have that, maybe you can use the Danish consulate, or if you're watching this interview and you're from Norway, you can use the Norwegian consulate. You can use Biasa. We can help you out with that. You can use, depending of your budget, and if your budget is like a tight budget, you can also use an awesome freelance platform which is available out there, and it's called elance.com. What is most important here is that you have to get started from somewhere. So um, use Elance, use Biasa, use the Danish consulate, the Norwegian consulate, the Finnish consulate, Swedish consulate, Swedish chamber. They are there. They're actually in the same building as the Danish consulate, but start from somewhere. If you don't have the internal resources, these are really good starting points. The second thing I want to talk about is about positioning. Um, so, how should you position your brand when you start in the Brazilian market? And the reason why I'm asking you that is that in Brazil, it's really tricky for any business. And here, it doesn't really matter whether it's like a B2C uh, type of business or B2B. Everyone that looks to Brazil sees a huge market. Brazil has today more than 200 million inhabitants, and actually it's a little bit more than that. And businessmen, they tend to overlook to this fact. They tend to take this information for granted, so to say. So um, it's not because you see this huge number of people that this is your potential market. But I'll be talking a little bit more about it in the next slides. But another thing you should know upfront, is that Brazilian people have a really high appreciation for products coming from Europe, especially products coming from the Nordic countries, Italy, and Germany, Spain as well. Let's put Portugal in the same bowl. But products coming from the Nordic countries, Germany and Italy, are understood um, by people that are products with superior quality. And by that I mean that, you know, I want to give you uh, this this case, tell you this story with Italy as well, because when we first started talking about how should we start in the Brazilian market and what kind of partner should we find in the Brazilian market. They were also thinking that the Brazilian market was extremely huge, which it is. But it's important to understand that in Brazil, social inequalities are still very present in our society. This picture is taken from a neighborhood called Morumbi, and you know, as you can see here on the right hand side, you have a luxurious building with a swimming pool by the veranda. But on the left hand side, you have, the poor community, which is what we name it as favela. Um, and these realities in Brazil, they live side by side, so they coexist together. And it's very challenging for someone coming from Denmark or Norway to see it, to take a look at this picture and to understand that people here, they will have different realities, they will have different purchase power, they will have different ways of seeing life. And this is why I wanted to share with you this graph also, which shows the different social classes that we have in Brazil. For Vita Living, as I said right when I started the positioning talk, they thought that Brazil was a huge market for them. Here I didn't really put what each class uh, earned per what is the earning average per class, but I want to actually to position you that we have different social classes in Brazil. So on the left hand X here, you have uh, number of people in million, okay, and you can see here on the at the bottom that we have different social classes. So class A1, uh, it was my mistake. I didn't put this data here, but our people earning from around $3,000 until the sky is the limit, and they represent 2 million um, people in Brazilian society. Class A2 is people earning from $2,500 to $3,500. And then we have Class B1 and Class B2, which are the classes that are what we call today. They are still middle class, but they are middle class with a better purchase power. So these are the people who are not actually struggling. I mean, they work really hard, but they're not struggling to bring food to the table. Um, Class C here, as you can see, we have 42 plus 44, 80, 86, right? 86 million people are what we call the new middle class. And here is where we have the real Brazilian mass, And these people are people who are actually traveling, using the airplanes for the first time. A lot of them, they're buying their first flat screen television. Um, so it's and each class here has an average earning per month. So for Vita Living, uh, I advise them that they should, as you can see here, we have class A1 to class B2. And when these classes are put together, from class A1 to class B2, we have roughly 56 million people of potential market. This is not bad at all, and if I'm not mistaken, this is approximately the population of Italy, right? Um, so Vita Living brands itself in other countries as a Danish, affordable Danish design company. In order to get started in Brazil, um, and because there was some homework, of course, that we did. I used my network a lot to share the products with, to show them, talk to some specialists, and so on. But we understood that people thought that their product was a premium product, and that's not how the same product is understood in Denmark. You know, so in Denmark, people have another perception for this product. So it would be more interesting for Vita Living to target a premium sector, a premium segment of the population, to get started in Brazil, because we understand that the other the other people who are not part of this 56 million people will want to buy anyways this product. You know, but this higher segment of the population, this higher segment, these people with a higher purchase power of the population, they are going to be somewhat the advocates for Vita Living in Brazil. They are going to be, you know, the the people who are going to be talking about the brand, sharing it, and creating the desire. Um, so um, this is something that is really important to understand. Here we're talking about B2C, but also if you have some sort of machinery, I believe it's very important to take a very good look at the market and see who's going to be your partner and what kind of industries this partner is going to to resell your product to. Um, and now we go to what I call the guerrilla tactics. And the guerrilla tactics, basically, it's something really simple, in my opinion, and it's something I have been using not only with It's a Living to do business in Brazil. I've also used this with the breweries, and now with the new deal that we are about to close. But in order to do business in Brazil and to increase your chances of of being successful, I recommend you to get to know people in person. And this is very important, and this is a subtle detail about the Brazilian culture. And therefore networking. It's extremely important. It's visiting. What we did with Vita Living was to visit a trade show. Um, you know, and we let the decision makers know about ourselves and therefore about our company. But the first thing was to build up a relationship and to shake hands. This was extremely important because at the trade show, and what I mean here about the guerrilla tactics was we didn't have a booth at the trade show. We basically visited the trade show to get to know people. So to get to know some decision makers that we had tracked before going to Brazil. We already had some idea of which decision makers we wanted to talk to, but we visited the local trade show and we didn't have a booth there, so we were not exposing our products there. But what we did was to take the lamps with us to the trade show. So I traveled to Brazil with the regional exports manager, and we spent a week actually. We were at this trade show for 5 days, and every day we try to visit 3 to 5 decision makers from different companies. But we had lamps with us. We brought the lamps along. And then you may say, oh, okay, but I sell a huge machinery for the beer industry. I sell something for cars. I don't really think that really matters. I think here what is most important is that you have to build up a relationship, and that's what the guerrilla tactics is about, or this slide is about. You have to build up a relationship with a Brazilian decision maker. They People there are very sympathetic, but on the other hand, they are really suspicious as well. People want to feel that your business is real, and they understand that your business is real by seeing you and by seeing you face to face, and by sort of feeling you. So this is my advice um, if you want to increase your chances of having success in the Brazilian market. And then we finally got to export to Brazil, and here was where the real challenges started. I don't think it was very challenging to find a partner. No, on the contrary. I mean, finding a partner to start in the Brazilian market, it's actually been um, one of the easiest parts. I mean, it wasn't easy at all. I mean, it demanded a lot of research and talking a lot, but compared to exporting to Brazil, it was definitely way less time consuming and you know less stressful as well. So what I have to say about this line here is that you should never underestimate the Brazilian bureaucracy. And in order to do so, you need to have reliable partners throughout the supply chain, like DSV, for example. Um, these guys, DSVs, they know all the drill, they know all the process, from end to end. So whether you're in Denmark or in Brazil, they are established there, and most importantly, they have subcontractors in their supply that are part of their supply chain as well that will understand the processes. Um, one interesting case here was that and this is something that I've learned as well. The most interesting thing about doing business or whatever you're doing is that you have to be open to learn. And both myself and Vita Living, we learned that we have this partner, and he wanted to sort of save some money with freight, and he found a company in Brazil who offered a freight for $25 per container. But I mean, this freight was insanely cheap, but the problems were also included with as part of this package. So I would say that you shouldn't underestimate this part. The Brazilian bureaucracy is very bureaucratic. The Brazilian customs, and exporting to Brazil can be a hassle. So having competent partners who are going to pass on the information only at once. And in Brazil, that's why I also wrote here, the information tends to come in bits and pieces. I've also been doing business with the breweries, and dealing with the Brazilian guys hasn't been so easy. We have finally succeeded at it, but it's been very very challenging, and stupid things like filling out a invoice or packing list, and there are requirements that if you actually have a guide showing the process, it makes your life way easier. You have to sign it with a blue pen. It cannot be with a black pen or red pen. Well, there are a lot of details that I don't want to be talking about now. So you should be aware also that information in Brazil tends to come in bits and pieces, and this usually happens not to annoy you, but this is a cultural trait that you should be aware of. And this can be mitigated or minimized by having reliable and competent partners throughout the supply chain. And the last tactic I use here to develop business in Brazil is what I call bypassing hierarchy. The other day I wrote also this post on LinkedIn, and I don't intend here to talk. This is not about bribery, not at all. I mean, also, if you're dealing with government officials, of course you're gonna respect all the laws. But these are small things that in my experience, they make total sense. If you want to speed up some of the processes, if you want to again increase your chances of being successful. And when I say here common sense prevails, it's from a Brazilian perspective. So when I do business in Brazil, I try to find and talk directly to who decides. I know that by doing so, I can save a lot of time. And one effective way to do so is by using LinkedIn. Um, using LinkedIn to find decision makers is an extremely um, good tactic you can have, but you should know that in Brazil, LinkedIn has approximately 15 million users. It's the third largest user base that LinkedIn has. The first one is in the USA, and then after comes India, and then after Brazil. But Brazil has 100 million internet users, and out of this 100 million internet users, only, let's put it like in quotes, let's quote that 15 million, 15 million users are on LinkedIn. So therefore, there are a lot of decision makers, especially in traditional industries such as this lighting industry here that we've just seen. They are not on LinkedIn, and in order to find them, you have to use other tactics, right? Such as going to a trade show that can be very effective as well. Um, but another thing that it's really interesting in Brazil is that hierarchy is very present in our organizations, and one of the things that might happen when you send an email to a company is that this email is going straight to the secretary. So one way to turn this around. This is not a rule, of course, but it could also help you to, again, common sense. It could also help you to break the ice and to get your message through, to get your message passed on to who really uh, is important, to who really matters, is by eventually sending a hard softener, or relying on other practices that are not used here in the Nordics. So eventually sending a box of chocolate, like a flower, to the secretary, and just saying that you appreciate, building up this relationship, uh, something like that, can be very effective. And I'm sure next time you send an email, your message is most likely going to pass on to who matters. So just as a few conclusions here, um, you know, in order to do business in Brazil, use all available resources. Piazza, the Danish consulate here, now in second place. Freelancers in Google.com.br, Brazilian Google. Um, get the messages sent out in Portuguese, as only 5% of the Brazilian population are fluent in English. Invest in your time in building personal relationships. You know, sometimes if you invest like 10,000 kroners, $3,000 in the ticket, $4,000, and you can get a deal because you visited a trade show. Of course, it's not only $4,000. You got to consider the accommodation as well, and eating and eventually traveling around Brazil. But in a trip as such, you can be way more effective than just sitting behind your desk sending emails. I think from my experience, I believe from my experience that building personal relationships in Brazil is very important. Is a very important tactic, and very effective tactic to get the deals done. Following up is very important as well, but this is another thing. And remember to bypass hierarchy, in the sense that you should talk to who decides, right? And never ever underestimate the Brazilian bureaucracy. So invest in finding competent partners. This shouldn't be seen as a cost, but rather is an investment, because this will save you a lot of time. Well, that was it, and thank you very much. And well, I hope I could, you know, contribute somehow to your life and your business. And you're really welcome to subscribe. Please, please, please subscribe to my channel. There will be tons of videos from now on. You will watch, videos on how to establish a company in Brazil, a little bit about taxation. We'll have webinars. So you can either visit Piazza. Here it's written DK, but you should visit .com. And my email is also cm@piazza.com. Um, so you could also visit piazza.com, write me a message. You know, you can also visit denmarkbrazil.com. But please subscribe to my channel. I would be really happy if you subscribe to my channel. to follow up and to get more news about how do you do business in Brazil. I intend to bring more technical information because I think what companies are really looking for and the value is really into to the technical information such as taxation, such as imports and how do you fill in an invoice. All this information will be coming over the next weeks and the next year. So just please, stay tuned, subscribe to my channel that you will receive a lot of information on those topics. Thank you very much, and I see you soon. Bye bye.